This is the Microschool Minute, your weekly dose of microschooling news and events.
In this week's edition of the Microschool Minute, in a pivotal late-night legislative session, the Texas House advanced a $337 billion two-year budget without a single amendment threatening to derail the proposed $1 billion school choice initiative. This marks a dramatic reversal from 2023, when a similar amendment effectively killed funding for school choice. This year, despite more than 400 amendments filed, none aim to block the creation of education savings accounts, a core component of Governor Greg Abbott's education reform agenda. If the budget clears through this financial stretch, Texas could soon roll out the nation's largest ESA program, offering up to $10,000 annually to qualifying students. These funds can be used for private school tuition, microschool enrollment, and other approved educational expenses. James Henson, director of the Texas Politics Project, told CBS Austin that the final legislation will likely reflect what we've seen circulating. That includes a starting cap of 100,000 students with potential expansion toward universal access, a move that would put Texas in line with ESA programs already operating in Arizona and in Florida. The Senate's version of the school choice bill, Senate Bill number 2, has already passed. Now, with the House poised to finalize its version, education in the Lone Star State is on the cusp of a historic transformation. By 2027, West Virginia's Hope Scholarship could cost taxpayers up to $300 million annually, a five-fold increase from its $58 million allocation just 1 year ago. This dramatic climb is tied to the program's full expansion, which will make every student in the state eligible, regardless of prior public school enrollment. It's a bold vision, but one that has some lawmakers from both parties asking, at what cost? Delegate Bill Anderson warned that education savings accounts, like the Hope Scholarship, might soon eat up our budget. Several legislators are also floating ideas aimed at keeping growth in check. Among them, spending caps similar to those placed on the state's Promise Scholarship, stricter eligibility requirements based on income or on need, and limitations on purchases, especially non-core essential educational expenses. State Finance Chair Vernon Criss acknowledged the need for better guardrails to preserve fiscal balance. Without intervention, the scholarship may force cuts in other areas. As West Virginia weighs the long-term trade-offs, one thing is clear. The Hope Scholarship's future is as much about economics as it is about education. The numbers are in, and they tell a powerful story. More than 36,000 students have now applied for Alabama's new school choice program, the Choose Act, a sweeping education savings account initiative. But here's the twist. The overwhelming majority of the applicants are not coming from traditional public schools. A breakdown of the application pool reveals 15,436 students currently earn private schools, 187 of those students from public schools, and 9,070 homeschooled students. This data has raised eyebrows across the education landscape. Critics argue that the program may not primarily benefit families trying to leave struggling public schools, but rather those already outside of the system and looking for further financial support. Demographically, the applications show that 13% have disabilities, potentially qualifying them for priority. Income data is still being verified, but those under 300% of the federal poverty level can qualify. Here's the catch. Only 14,000 spots can be funded in the program's first year under the available $100 million budget. That leaves over 22,000 students potentially without access. State officials have promised to prioritize students with disabilities, military-connected families, as well as low-income households. But with such overwhelming interest, tough decisions and perhaps future funding battles lie ahead. After weeks of tense negotiations and a missed deadline, the Iowa House has passed Senate File 167, sending it to Governor Kim Reynolds for final approval. The bill locks in a 2% state supplemental aid increase, translating to an additional $157 per student for the 2025-26 school year. It also includes a small $5 raise to the state cost per pupil to reduce disparities between districts, a 5% hike in per-pupil funding for the Transportation Equity Fund, and a total funding increase of $238.1 million, which spans public K-12 schools, charter schools, as well as Iowa's Education Savings Account program. But the journey here wasn't smooth. Lawmakers blew past their self-imposed deadline by over 2 months. The governor's budget was released in January, with school districts required to submit their own budgets in March, well before this funding plan was finalized. House Republicans initially pushed for a 2.25 SSA increase and broader funding measures, which were partly scaled back in the Senate's final amendment. Democrats pushed back hard, warning that 159 school districts may now rely on the budget guarantee, a fallback that shifts the burden to local property taxpayers. For public and charter schools, the bill means modest yet predictable increases, though many say it falls short of actual need. Microschools, however, may find new footing in the shifting landscape. With flexible models and smaller funding requirements, they could benefit from the continued expansion of education savings accounts. The bill may be signed, but the bigger debate is just beginning. Ohio is proposing a bold shift in how it funds their education. Last week, the Ohio House revealed a budget plan that would inject $35.1 million into education savings accounts for families with children in non-chartered, non-public schools, which are private institutions that operate outside of many of the state's regulations due to religious or philosophical exemptions. These ESAs would allow parents to use public dollars not just for tuition, but for uniforms, books, school fees, and more. The proposal is part of a larger strategy by Republican lawmakers to dramatically expand school choice, and it's the latest in a string of legislative moves, including last year's expansion of EdChoice vouchers that have pushed voucher spending in Ohio to nearly $1 billion annually. The plan makes a new chapter in Ohio's education reform movement. Instead of focusing on the final phases of public school funding overhaul, lawmakers are redirecting the conversation and the money toward privatization and parent-led choice. United States Education Secretary Linda McMahon addressed attendees at the ASU GSV Summit this week by defending the Trump administration's sweeping overhaul of the Department of Education. Her message was clear. Washington-based bureaucracy is broken, and it's time to let the states lead. We just can't keep going along with what we've been doing, McMahon said. Let's shake it up. Let's do something different. The plan? Dismantle the department to the maximum extent possible, she says. That process is already underway. Over half of the agency's staff have been cut, including more than 100 union employees from the Institute of Education Sciences, the agency's research and data arm. This move has raised alarms about the future of national education metrics like the National Assessment of Educational Progress, often referred to as the nation's report card. As Congress considers whether to approve the department's formal closure, the education landscape is already being rewritten, one regulation, one funding stream, one institution at a time. Microschools are redefining education through small, personalized learning environments that put student needs at the center. Often referred to as a 21st century one-room schoolhouse, these innovative institutions allow for flexibility, creativity, and deep community involvement. This week's spotlight focus goes to a group that's helping microschools flourish, the Arkansas-based Reform Alliance. On May 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Reform Alliance will host a webinar featuring education leaders, microschool founders, and policy experts who will discuss how these schools are reshaping the educational landscape in Arkansas and beyond. The event will also explore how microschools can participate in the Arkansas Education Freedom Account ESA program, which provides families with financial resources to customize their learning. Whether you're a parent seeking better options or an educator ready to lead change, this event is a powerful starting point. If you know of a microschool or organization that deserves a shout-out, drop a line and let us know. Thank you for tuning in to the Microschool Minute, your weekly review of microschooling news and events. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you'd like to support us, consider leaving a review. Until next week, happy microschooling.